welcome to the Yoga Nook with Robbie. I'm Robbie S.D. Willick, and today we're going to talk about stretches for curlers. So we're going to do 5 stretches today that are specific to the sport of curling. I started curling last year for the first year, and amazing activity, super fun, super social, great way to get to know your community. I'm in Sackville, New Brunswick. The Sackville Curling Club has a great Learn to Curl program, great balance of fun and information, and also a rookie league. It was on Saturday mornings last year, 2023, it's 2024. And great group of people, great way to kind of get a little introduction to the sport of curling. And yeah, a lot of fun. I was asked by the coordinator for player development to come up with a few stretches for curling warm-up, and that's what we're going to go over today. We've got 5 key stretches to go over for just getting your body a little prepared for doing some of the sweeping, and if you're a stick curler, working on balance and strength for the hips and the legs. And if you get down low to throw the stone, then we'll do a little work to kind of keep the hip flexors, the muscles around the glutes a little bit more strong and flexible, so you will best be able to enjoy the sport and have a good time on the ice. Okay, so at your curling club, you might not want to get down on the floor. So we're going to do our curling stretches in a standing position, or we'll use a chair to get in our key stretches. We're going to start with a good warm-up for the chest and the upper back. A very basic stretch, but for that sweeping motion, getting down low, sweeping, a lot of activity in the chest and the upper back. And it's important to really warm up those muscles a little bit to avoid overuse injuries or strain of those muscles or the joints in that area. Very basic stretch for that is standing cat-cow. So you can do this in a bit of a hunched position, kind of starting with a neutral spine. Your knees have a little bit of a bend in it, maybe 45 degrees, not coming down to 90. You can get down low if you want to, but this is suitable. All we're going to do, looking forward, a rounding of the back, really pressing the back up toward the ceiling, letting the head drop down a little bit, shoulder blades moving away from the spine, and then we'll reverse that. We're going to bring the chest forward, sticking the butt, the tailbone upward, looking up a little bit, bringing the shoulder blades closer to the spine. Just doing about 8 to 10 rounds of that. You're going to get that nice stretch through the shoulder blade region, and a nice stretch through the chest region to have a little more comfort and safer experience when you're doing that quick sweeping motion. So again, just pressing the back up toward the ceiling, letting the head drop down, tucking the tailbone under. You don't have to hold that position, you can if you want, but you can also keep it dynamic and then reversing. Chest comes forward, tailbone pointing up toward the ceiling, and your gaze just looking ahead. Again, about 8 to 10 repetitions of that. You're keeping it nice, slow, fluid motion. Very simple. And then just coming back up to standing. So another important muscle group is the hip flexor group. And this is really engaged for people who get down low to throw the rock on the ice. So we're in a bit of a lunge position. This isn't exactly it, but you can see these muscles have to have a little bit of a length to it. It creates quite a bit of a stretch through the front of the hip on this side. And it's important to really warm that up. It's a powerful muscle group, crossing the front of the hip, subject to injury if we don't do a good warm-up. So a nice warm-up for this is to have a chair or a table, a stable surface close by. And I just have bare feet, but if you're really tight through the quads in the front of the thigh or the hip flexors, if you have pants on, you can hold on to the pant leg, you can hold on to a sock. If you're able, you can hold on to the ankle, or just not really the ankle, to the very bottom of the shin. Our starting position is neutral, so the thighs are basically lined up in a parallel orientation. But we're using our balance already here on my right foot, and taking that left leg back, so as far as you can comfortably go, bringing that knee, the bent knee, behind that stable balancing leg knee. And we're trying to hold for about 30 seconds to 60 seconds. If you're really wanting to go for a deeper stretch and you can stand this balanced position, you can go for about 2 minutes, but suggesting about between 30 seconds to 60 seconds. If you're feeling a little bit of a release through the quadriceps, that muscle tension is easing a little bit, You can play with bringing the knee a little bit further behind, keeping it comfortable. This creates a bit of an arch in the back, so you don't want to feel a compressed feeling through that lower back area. And simply bringing that knee forward, releasing the calf, the foot back down to the floor, and then switching over to the other side. So after doing our hip flexor stretch, we also want to think about the muscles on the side of the hip. There are two muscles, the gluteus medius, and the gluteus minimus, and they're really involved with stabilizing when it comes to balance. So for stick curlers, just for navigating the ice surfaces, this is an important muscle group on the side of the hips to have it both strong and flexible. So when we're doing our standing balance pose here, this hip flexor stretch I just demonstrated, we are getting a bit of a toning or a strengthening of this muscle group. You can play with a yoga pose called the tree pose, which really helps to engage a little bit more isolation of that muscle group. So briefly, you can stand on one hip and just bring your other leg off of the floor. This is a great way to start to condition these muscles to help you with balance on that slippery surface, and the stronger it is, the more flexible it is, the more enhanced your balance is, less prone to falling, less prone to injuries. You can also play with spinning that bent knee out to the side. You can play with the position here, having it a little bit the heel below the knee. Flexibility permits. You can bring the foot above the knee, and this creates a bit of an opening through the inner thigh, the adductor muscle group, which is also an important muscle for helping to maintain balance, as you can see. It's a bit of a balance challenge. But we already did a little toning again of that muscle group, the side of the hip, in our standing balance pose here, using that chair to help you with your balance as much as you need. If you want to do more of a stretch for this position, well, you can again use a stable surface. Let's stretch the glute med and the glute min on this right side. So we're going to have our left leg in a bit of a bent position, and simply taking the foot across the body using, again, a stable table surface or a chair, the arm of a chair or the back of a sturdy chair. And our right leg is crossed behind that left leg. This creates a lengthening of that muscle group, that important muscle group, the glute med, glute min, important for balance in standing, uneven terrain, slippery surfaces. Again, holding for about 30 seconds to 60 seconds, and then repeating on the other side. And we saw when I was demonstrating tree pose, I mentioned that this muscle group, the inner thigh, the adductor muscle group, is another important muscle group to help us with balance when we're a little unsteady, slippery surfaces. Very simple way to stretch this is a standing lunge. So we'll start with a fairly wide stance. We'll take our right knee, bring it into a bent position. So my right foot is turned out about 45 degrees. Instead of pointing forward, that can be a little strenuous on the knee. If that's comfortable for you, you can play with that. But taking that right foot, bending it about 45 degrees away from that kind of front body orientation, and then coming down with your hand supporting on the base of the thigh, the very bottom of the thigh. You really will feel a nice lengthening of the adductor muscle group on this left side. And again, you can have a chair close by or a table surface if you need that for a little stability and support. But a great way to create a little balance between that muscle group on the outside aspect of the hip that we played with when we were doing our standing balance pose, the tree pose or that hip flexor stretch. And again, in this stretch, really targeting that adductor muscle group. Again, important for balance, strength, flexibility for some of the positions that we do in curling, whether it's standing or that low squat position when we're throwing the rock. Again, 30 seconds, 60 seconds to come out of that pose, just straightening the leg. And you can walk the feet close together or step them in, and then the other side, 30 to 60 seconds. And our last stretch is a stretch for the glute max muscle. This is another important one when we're down in that low throwing position. Demonstrate on this side. We're throwing the rock from that low position. These muscles really have to lengthen to be able to get down. Not only the muscles on the opposite side, the hip flexor muscles that we saw earlier, but coming into this low squat position really creates a lengthening of these muscles, and to create some balance, strength, and flexibility. This seated pose is a really nice one. The seated figure 4, very simple, just sitting in a chair, comfortable height for you. This is a little bit low. Ideally, we want our knees to be about 90-degree bend, but you'd be okay if your hips are a little bit below the knees, that's fine. Going to cross one leg over, and resting your arms on your opposite leg, you can gently press down, just a minimal force if you want to, not even necessary with your elbow on that bent knee. Already in through my glutes, in through this area, I'm feeling a fairly nice stretch. If you want to amplify that stretch, simply hinging forward at the hips, leading with the breastbone, leading with that heart center, coming forward. That's going to intensify that stretch through that hip area, through the back and the side of the hip. Again, suggesting about 30 to 60 seconds, coming back up, and then switching over to the other side, like so. If this is a difficult pose for you to achieve, not everybody is able to come into this position. If you're really tight through the hips, you can play with this in a standing position, using a chair, crossing the leg in this fashion, so a little bit more forgiving. Maybe you're able to achieve this position a little bit more easily, and then coming into a bit of a low position, using that table or chair to stabilize you. Demonstrate on this side. It's really this area, the glute max, that you're going to want to be feeling that stretch. 30, 60 seconds again. Last stretch we'll do is hamstring stretch. You can do this from a seated position easily. We keep one knee bent, we extend our other leg straight at the knee. We're going to take our foot and the toes pulling in towards our shin. In this position already, you may feel a bit of a stretch through the back of the knee or through the calf. If you want to target the muscles in the back of the thigh, the hamstring muscles, we're simply going to hinge forward at the hips, leading with the breastbone, coming into a bit of a forward bent position. Keeping the lower back relatively straight, a little bit of a bend is okay, but we're not really wanting to collapse through the lower back. A nice lengthened spine, thinking about hinging at the hips. And stopping when you feel that comfortable tension through the back of the thighs. So this is our goal with stretching. We want to have a comfortable challenge where you feel a nice, easy, gentle, comfortable pulling sensation. If you're having a lot of shaking happening with the muscles, if you're having an intense pain experience, you're going too far and you may be risking injury. So really being mindful of that idea of a comfortable stretch sensation.
So I hope that gives you a few ideas to have a nice, safe, comfortable warm-up for curling. You should be doing this every time, just taking about 5 to 10 minutes to do a little stretch warm-up. Again, to warm up those muscles for some of the more intense activities, the quick motions, and also just to enhance your balance and strength on the ice. All right, good curling.